You guys ever look in a mirror? DCR, Junior, Buffalo, right? Not exactly a bunch of models, let alone the weight those poor chairs are being asked to carry. Wow.
That is just really, really rude.
I feel like there's only two people that would actually hurt.
Neither of which is me, who said a bad thing about the Bills.
So you basically caught the...
I keep catching them. Yes, this is what's going to happen with the billboard as well. If Billy doesn't figure out how to sabotage this, I'm legitimately looking around the room and trying to figure out who can execute this for me responsibly, because I feel like Billy is going to play defense
I'm keeping them away from you.
Against
Absolutely.
my ability to put up these billboards. And I keep looking at Jeremy. I keep thinking that Jeremy can actually get this executed.
Yeah, I don't like him.
Got it.
He's too much of an eager beaver for my liking.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
beaver, yeah.
Just sits over there. He's like, how can I help him? Like, less help, please. Okay.
Renaissance.
Why are you always trying to dull everyone else's ambitions?
We need fewer Jeremys around here.
We need more Jeremys around here.
More Jeremys, yeah.
Renaissance Man, who also goes by Bills Fan Diehard, writes, what grown man criticizes another man's face? If you're going to do that, at least make sure you've looked in a mirror first.
Oh,
well,
I've never heard that before. What grown man criticizes another grown? I've heard like never talk about another man's job, but I've never heard of like grown man can't criticize grown man's face.
Well, but that grown man then said to look in the mirror, which is criticizing my face. As a grown man.
He never said he was a grown man.
He said he was a grown Renaissance man in his Twitter avatar.
Does it say grown?
I was going to guess 15-year-old girl, but I guess maybe he was a grown man.
Not grown.
This is where I continue to catch the strays. Has anyone actually heard of this show before? Le Batard Who?
I love that. How do
they even find this though? Like, if they don't know what this, like, how does this even get to them?
Because we instigate trolling. The trolling happens, and then it gets retweeted in Bill's spheres and gets pumped into the algorithm. And if you're an angry Bills fan, and you'll see it because you're likely to be angry with Bill's stuff, and that's what Twitter algorithms and everything has done to our brains.
We talked about this on Metalarkers, the idea that the algorithm has changed the way people perceive things, right? It was meant to give you more of what you want, right? Like, I'm a Bills fan. I want only Bills things, right? So the algorithm's like, here's some Bills stuff, here's some Bills stuff. But then they get to a point where their entire world is consumed by this, and they don't understand that there's a world outside that's happening, and shit that might not be popular in your little podunk corner of the internet is popular everywhere else, where you get to the place where you're like, well, it's the Le Batard Show, never heard of that.
I have actually a story about this over the weekend.
Yeah?
One of my girlfriends texted me and was like, I just met someone who's a big fan of your show. And I was like, oh, that's great. And she was like, yeah, I never knew who actually watched that. And I was like, well, a lot of people do, but maybe you just don't.
Well, I mean,
it'd be bizarre if I collected a salary working on a show that no one listened
Nobody,
to.
I was like, I didn't move to Miami to work for like, a little like
passion
person.
project.
Yeah, like I was like, well, it's kind of but I didn't know. I couldn't say that without sounding like a
no.
tool,
I go full tool. I told Dan this the other day. It happened with me and my friends in the group chat where we were talking about the Dana White thing, and one of my friends says, "Well, no one's been talking about it." I said, "What are you talking about?" We talked about it for 3 straight days. Like, well, I've never seen your show. I'm like, we're the #1 sports podcast. I don't know what more to tell you.
You sent him the email we get every week with all of our metrics on it.
Proprietary
information.
I want to ask you guys, though, about this disturbing thing in the middle of what it is that you're saying, because you're casually throwing out the algorithm.
Mm-hmm.
You're casually throwing out the algorithm.
Al Gore's cousin, algorithm.
Algorithm. That's what the G stands
that's
for.
Him dancing
I'll be sure.
Him dancing at a wedding. Al Gore dancing at a wedding is an Al Gore rhythm. The thing that you casually threw in there, because we have an addiction to our devices, they are distorting our perceptions, and I'm alarmed at the way people have already normalized with a shrug of the shoulders. Yeah, my devices kind of know how to manipulate me. They know they're listening to me. They know how to target ads toward me. They know how to get money out of my pockets. And that's normalized now. And I can't help but be scared of that. Like every time I I hear it being more and more casually said, yeah, there's an algorithm that can absolutely be smart enough to predict your behaviors and change your world because you now live part of your life in social media to make that seem real to you, even though it's not a real thing. You're just being manipulated by something smarter than you.
I wouldn't say it's not a real thing. I'd say that it distorts your view of reality, right? It makes you look through a keyhole, but gives you the impression that you've got 360 vision.
That you're seeing the world.
Right. So it's not real. The stuff is real. It's just it comes through a funnel and it keeps out everything else that provides context to
If
your
it's
world.
distorting your perception, it's by definition not real. Your perception is being distorted. You're not perceiving things correctly. You're getting a viewpoint, you're getting a vantage point that is altering what happens outside of this thing you're addicted to.
But it feels like a different version of like Big Brother. Like somebody's watching over you, seeing what you're doing. But in this case, somebody's watching over you, seeing what you're doing, but is trying to change your mind on something.
And it's listening to you. You guys casually mention the idea that, yeah, my devices are listening to me.
Well, listening comes in a lot of different ways, right? Could be listening like the Alexas, which are actively listening to conversations you're having, not with the Alexa, and then, internalizing that information. But even if that's not the case, just our interaction with the device. Look, my Instagram targeted ads don't send me stuff because it listens to my conversations. It sends me that stuff because I'm telling it every day. Ooh, I like this content. Ooh, I like this Star Wars thing. Oh, I like these t-shirts. And it's like, sounds like he likes Star Wars t-shirts. And that's how it happens. So part of it is like, yes, there is an invasion of privacy in terms of devices that are actively recording what we're talking about when we don't address them. But then the other part of it is our active involvement. Facebook, a large part of the information they got was the stuff people offered themselves, right? Ooh, my interests are books and movies and this. Oh, I like going my favorite vacation places. Like, you're telling them. You're giving them the information.
And, I mean, there are things sometimes where you go, I only mentioned this once, and somehow I've gotten a targeted Instagram. Like, there's a certain element of it where they're either, like, tracking, like, the
keystrokes?
Keystrokes or things that I say out loud or thoughts that I have sometimes. But for me, it's more I try and be more aware of it. So I download and delete TikTok like 2 times a week. And every time that I'm on it, it's like, oh, this is what it thinks that I like. And so either I interact with it more, so it gives me more, or I'm like, no, this is not for me. Like, get it out of here. And so like it's always trying to guess and figure out what it is that you like. To me, the thing that Amin mentioned that's interesting is sort of the way that it affects that collective perception. On the example of like Dana White coverage, where if it doesn't specifically enter the world in which you live in, then it doesn't exist.
Nobody's talking about
it because it didn't enter my world. Like, we all have vastly different collective perceptions than we did even 10 years ago, when it was sort of, I mean, David Sampson talked about it last week when he was like, what was on SportsCenter? And the amount of time that was dedicated to what was on SportsCenter is how we got annoyed about the coverage of our sport. Now it's like, how do you even measure that? How do you measure how baseball penetrates any one person's life?
Hell yeah. There was this podcast called Reply All that did an investigation about this podcast doesn't exist anymore for reasons, but they did a deep dive on like how Facebook does Facebook listen to people, because people are writing in. It was like a tech podcast, and people writing in, they were like, I think Facebook's listening to me because I'll say something out loud and then I'll get a targeted ad. And they went into all the ways that your computer is communicating, like your phone is communicating with all the other phones around you, and over Wi-Fi networks, via your credit card, via like all of the things that you do on your phone, and the apps talking to each other. And it can make it seem like it is listening to you, but it probably isn't actually listening to what you're saying out loud. But then, I mean, with Alexa and all of those things that have been invented, people still doubt that. But when you do literally anything with your credit card or online, your phone, certain apps on your phone are keeping a record of it. And it knows exactly who you are.
You're absolutely right. It's also the Wi-Fi. On the same Wi-Fi network, it figures out what everyone's talking about. But then the other thing that's important, Witty, to this idea of people not penetrating their bubble is the idea that you don't have the wherewithal. I think most people don't have the wherewithal to understand. I have self-selected into this world. I have self-selected into a world where the app is giving me stuff that I decided that I like. And then the third part of this is that through a lot of very high-level regression analysis, the algorithm can figure out things that you probably like based on all the other stuff that you're into. So it takes a guess, like based on math.
I'm guessing everyone in our crew is getting inundated at every turn with just sports stuff that you're not missing. You're getting bombarded at every turn because we're all craving whatever is more information is, and it's impossible to keep up. I'm supposing that all of us are getting drowned by that.
Here's a great example of that, Dan. We're all getting inundated with sports stuff, right? One of the largest sports in the world, by far, in a way that shocks most Americans when they find out, is cricket. Raise your hand if you get cricket info coming in any of your timelines.
It's once. I usually scroll past it, and then the algorithm knows that don't give me cricket stuff.
If it's somebody who's getting hit in the junk, that's when it ends up. That's
how it ends up on your doorstep.
That's the stuff that's coming to me, yes.
But
I mean, you asked that question, and here it was just crickets.
No!
Oh my God!
No!
What a morass.
I see that DraftKings has put out, and I don't know what you guys think of this, betting favorites for Tom Brady. Retirement doesn't seem to be one of the choices on where he'll end up. For some reason, the betting favorite right now is the Bucks, which I would not bet. I feel like that is clearly over, but it's plus 200 on the Bucks. Next up is the Raiders, plus 250. That's something that's been talked about for a while. Dana White said that Gronk and Tom Brady had a deal that got blown up somewhere to go to the Raiders. The 49ers are plus 350. That can't be anymore, can it? Brock Purdy's their quarterback. No,
that's funny. It could have been any one of three people that you said just now. I mean, are they really going to go into next year with Brock Purdy? I mean, they could absolutely do the thing of we have Brock Purdy on. I mean, God knows how cheap that contract is. And we trade Trey Lance and we let Jimmy Garoppolo go and we pay our quarterback $800,000 and we preserve this incredible roster that we have for the next 3 years. I mean, it's not a bad plan, but that's really their long-term future is Brock Purdy.
It is magically delightful. Would it be Tom Brady? Yes, of course. Their long-term future, the next 10 years of Tom Brady. It is a funny thing to say out loud. Will the 49ers get rid of Brock Purdy for Tom Brady?
I mean, they'd have to pay him like 30. Jess looked up his contract. What's his contract?
He's making $870,000 next year, and it's the second year of a 4-year deal. So, yeah, it's pretty cheap. But I think the favorite still has to be the Buccaneers if they fire their offensive coordinator and maybe their head coach. But is he really going to get 2 head coaches fired in back-to-back seasons?
You have them. I thought that the press conference and every behavior of the last couple of years in private that got the Dolphins to lose picks would suggest, even a letter that he wrote that we misinterpreted as a retirement letter that was he already said goodbye last year to Tampa. I can't believe they're the favorite. Isn't it not being assumed? Is anyone, we all live in the same bubble here. Mm-hmm. You listening to this, you're assuming Tom Brady is playing and you're assuming that it won't be in Tampa, correct?
Absolutely.
No, I don't assume it won't be in Tampa.
Really?
I
just,
don't.
Like,
I think
maybe
Tampa really wants him to come back for cap reasons.
Maybe this is my, but do you all just got to come in and acknowledge our bubbles? In my bubble, everything has been discussed of where he can go that's not Tampa. And there's a lot of conversation as well about how he sort of needs a lot of things around him now, and the Bucs do not seem equipped to provide those things at this point. And so you're looking at other scenarios with offensive lines and tight ends and skill position players and going, there are other places that are better set up for him at this moment.
San Francisco has all of those things for a quarterback that doesn't have Tom Brady's contract. for a quarterback at Brock Purdy's
I would
contract.
say collectively they're paying between Lance, Garoppolo, and Purdy about what Brady's salary is.
Garoppolo's making about $30 million, and they clearly don't need him. Brock Purdy can do those things cheaper. The Dolphins and the Patriots are plus 750.
What are the Jets?
The Jets and Giants, I think, were right after that at plus 900.
Because I was listening to the Mina Kimes show and Dominique Foxworth was on, and that's my bubble because that's how I get most of my NFL
intelligent
information. And they said that they thought the Jets would be the best landing spot for him because of how good the defense is and the offense is set up for Tom Brady.
Like they literally just needed a competent quarterback, not even a good one, right?
I would love that to happen because then Stugotz's whole "do I have a quarterback" thing would take on like a triple meaning.
I watched a 10-minute clip, and I love that they're able to do this on NFL Live. I think it's one of the best shows going anywhere in sports. They spent 10 minutes talking about breaking down what the 49ers do, how they use their personnel, and how confusing it is to have them set up. You never know where McCaffrey's going to set up. You never know where they're going to put George Kittle. You never know if he's a tight end or a wide receiver. And then you've got Deebo Samuel running around healthy as well. They've scored 30-plus points. They're the only team right now that's overwhelming everybody. They play Arizona. They just swamp you. The games might be close for a half, but then they're in the 30s, and whether it's Seattle or Arizona. Now Dallas goes up there. And I think, for as long as we've been talking this season, Billy, I think it's gone without saying. The Chiefs and the Bills have been the best since those 13 seconds they were playing. And then the Bengals snuck into the Super Bowl by beating the Chiefs because football happened. And I think most of the people listening to this are like, good God, San Francisco's won 10 straight, and they're just clubbing people. They're just punching people in the face with a defense that's more physical than you, an offense that's more physical than you, and a coach who knows how to use all of that personnel. That's a perfect place for Tom Brady. Though, like, if I just dropped him in there, if Brock Purdy could do that, what do you think that Tom Brady would do in that system?
Oh, it'd be incredible. It's just, if you're San Francisco, you have this young quarterback who, I mean, it all sort of depends on what Kyle Shanahan thinks of Brock Purdy. Is he just, does he think I just invented this quarterback out of thin air? Or does he actually think that Brock Purdy has a longer term future? Because I think, I mean, we talk about the value of getting first round quarterbacks. If you get a 7th round quarterback on a 4-year deal on the salary that he's on, the stuff that it allows you to do with your roster, they're going to probably have, at the very least, other teams trying to poach their players after this season, and certainly other teams trying to poach their coaches. We know that DeMeco Ryans has been linked with a lot of moves to other NFL teams. So other teams will be coming for the 49ers stuff, but they just have a bunch of free cap space and a bunch of minimum players at the quarterback position that allows them to keep this great roster. I would imagine Kyle Shanahan wouldn't mind having the threat of Christian McCaffrey being able to extend him to a new contract.
Dan, you want to see if Tom Brady's all in, do you?
Yes.
Okay.
What do you mean? Of course he's all in.
Okay, so I'm going to tell you, the game plan for him being all in is to take the absolute bare minimum, knowing he's got a $375 million contract with Fox. You take a $1 million deal and you say, 49ers, I'm here. Here's $1 million for 4 years. Let's do it. Who says no?
Pretty sure the players union.
Yeah.
Nah, but I mean, you know, come on.
There is that.
How much money do you think he's making from the film 80 for Brady?
That's a great
He's
question.
producing it. He's got a cameo in it. It might actually be good. They did a whole
It's not
CBS
gonna
Sunday
be good.
Mornings thing.
It might actually be
can't
good.
It
There's
will
no
not
chance.
be good at
Cinema-
all.
I
In
saw
my,
it and
in
I
my
actually
be
bubble,
good. I think it
in
might
my
be.
bubble, Roy's in my bubble. In my internet bubble, the CBS Sunday Mornings interview with the 4 actresses that are in it, it's like Lily Tomlin, Rita Moreno, Jane Fonda. They did an interview on CBS Sunday Mornings, and they were getting praised for it in my bubble.
I love Rita Moreno, but there's no chance. This has cinephobe written all over it.
It's kind of a cute story, which makes me feel shitty because I've been also making fun of it, and I also don't like Tom Brady generally, so it's really tough for me because I love old ladies. We love Golden Girls on
It
this
looks
show.
like a Golden
Gilmore
Girls went to the
Girls.
Super Bowl
That's
episode.
That's
that's
what it is.
exactly what it is. They heard our conversation about Golden Girls.
And what's
last
wrong
week.
about that?
They heard it and then they went back
The
in
algorithm.
time and then they made an entire movie.
It kind of seems like it might be cute, and there's a Gronk cameo in the trailer that I've seen it, and I'm like, oh, that's
I
kind
love
of cute.
I love movies like that because it's designed to say, and these guys over here love it because Gronk's in it. Like, oh, Gronk, yeah, he's on the screen.
Yeah, that's me though. I literally just said that was me. It's made for me. The
that's
old
what I'm
ladies
saying.
and the Gronk. I don't know. I would watch it. I'm probably gonna watch it.
There's never
Kyle.
been a better pairing than
Yeah.
the all of those women doing an interview on that CBS Sunday Morning show. Like that is demo gold right there.
Respectfully, every 40-year-old I know was texting me about it.
So you're telling me that that's now being what? It's a great show. It's an indisputably great show. Whittingham is the only person around here. I text him every Sunday morning. Are you sitting around listening to that woodpecker for 45 seconds?
Stugotz likes it. He's always talking about Jane Pauley. Is that the same one?
There's no
Yes.
way Stugotz watches that at all.
He was
Stugotz-
also in Mexico this
He
weekend.
confesses
so.
to watching that show. He loves his Jane Pauley on a Sunday morning.
What is CBS Sunday Morning? What is
for the
that?
love of
my
God.
God.
Use
Can you
context
really?
clues.
Can you step
What is this, a
outside
show on
of
Sunday
your
mornings?
On
myopic
CBS?
bubble for
On CBS?
5
Like, what
seconds?
is it?
Man, that trumpet when it comes
It's
on,
the
man.
trumpet.
What
it's
is
the,
60
it's
minutes?
the-
I
It's the
wonder.
show where the sun.
The only
comes on.
trumpet I
I
know
don't
is
like
Solo
that.
Dance.
The
That's
sun.
it.
I love the sun. That logo is great.
I don't like that logo at all.
What?
Yeah, I feel like it's like when I see the logo. and-
What's the logo? Let me see the logo.
The eye,
Okay.
right?
No, it's like a weird sun
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
that
It's
it
like a,
makes
it's like
you-
a, it's a smiling sun.
It's a squiggly sun.
if you're just clicking through the channels really quick and you see it on the corner, it almost looks like it's like one of those paid for play like religious programs
yeah.
that's
Oh, the
on.
infomercial.
It looks like a
I was,
fake
I,
show.
I was gonna say
The 700 Club.
I was gonna say
Yeah,
kids
yeah.
show. I was gonna say kid show, like a
Teletubbies.
like Saturday syndication kid show.
Jessica, are you alleging, respectfully, are you alleging that young people are now watching this show because it seems targeted to old people? They'll go to Rich Little's house, and I'm like, there's
Rich
just
Little?
there's just no way. There's no way that anyone who's under 40 years old knows who this person is.
My best girlfriend, I won't say her age, but she is in that demographic age-wise. She watches it every Sunday, and she texts me every Sunday, and she's like, you would love this show. You need to watch this show. And I see clips from it on Twitter sometimes, and I'm like, I watched at her house once. They did a segment on like how vanilla is made. And that
It's
is
a great show.
so up my effing alley. I'm like, show me the vanilla beans.
Oh,
They're gonna
yes.
bake a little
the most
muffin.
boring flavor.
That was the premise, Billy. It's the most boring flavor, but it's got a fascinating story. And you know what? It did. It's really interesting.
So-
They only grow it in like 2 places in the whole world, Mexico and Madagascar.
Are you saying that vanilla is like the mysterious bartender at a bar, doesn't talk much or interact with the locals, and then they find out, oh, it was actually like a contract killer in another life, but now it just wants a quiet life pouring beers for people?
I will say vanilla that we think of when we think of vanilla is not like actual vanilla bean vanilla. Like vanilla has a flavor, but a lot of the vanilla we have is like vanilla extract or like fake vanilla extract. It's not the same thing. If you actually use like a vanilla bean to make something, it tastes a little bit more interesting,
So
spicier.
vanilla is basically Liam Neeson.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You think it's just a kindly old man, but it has a past.
This sounds like a show that like they program just so people are at peace with dying. Like I'd rather go than see the end of this.
My God.
The show's like 50 years
That's
old.
good shit, Billy.
Exactly.
It's a magazine show, so they give a little bit of everything for everyone. And
No,
chances are-
do they? Because I feel like they're targeting old people.
Oh no, they definitely are.
Do they talk about Bad Bunny?
yeah, but what do you
It's
consider?
CBS.
What do you
They
consider
probably-
old?
Honestly, they probably do.
Yeah, they
like,
probably
but
do,
in
yeah.
a very like clumsy way. Like, let's tell you about this fella called Bad Bunny.
He's
who's
got an earring.
Very popular with the kids now.
It's not like dumbed down for old people, though. It's just through the lens of adults, not 20-year-olds
It's
on
one
the
of the
Dan Le Batard
smart.
Show.
It's one of
Tony.
the smartest shows on television. It's the quality of what they're making is excellent. I just did not have young people watching it. What are you laughing about?
Dan,
Billy?
you want to know smart, Dan? Sports science.
Yeah.
That's what's smart. Not whatever
Yeah.
whatever a magazine show is. I don't know what that even means. Is
Shoot
it
a
a magazine
ball-
or a show? I don't get it.
Shoot a ball out of a cannon,
Right.
and then catch it, and then
Right.
tell me what the speed was and
Exactly.
the terminal velocity.
I don't even watch this like CBS Sunday Mornings, and I feel like offended by all of these takes because I feel like we probably all would, minus Tony, we probably all would like it. And they did a really great.
I still don't know what it is.
Oh my God, it's a magazine show on
Explain it to
Sunday
me like
mornings on
if I
CBS.
don't know what a magazine show is.
Did you know
Explain
what
it to me.
Not like
magazine
if.
is?
It's like
Not
60
if.
minutes
Hold on.
but on Sunday morning.
Let's
Not
start.
if.
Let's
They
start
do like
with
they
this.
do like 8 or 9 news stories about a variety of topics, and it's the end of it.
Do you know what a magazine
boring.
is?
Yeah,
Do you know what a show is?
sometimes.
Anyways, they did a segment with all these actresses in 80 for Brady, and I have to say, it did charm me. It tickled me.
There's
The clips
two,
in it were really wonderful.
There's 2 reviews right now on Rotten Tomatoes for 80 for Brady, and they're both positive.
Yeah,
I was stunned by that.
Shills.
One for Hollywood Reporter, the other for Variety. They seem like
Shills.
What if I
Critics.
make you feel guilty by saying that these older women in their 80s all came together because their husbands died, and watching Tom Brady was the thing that kept them together? So they went on a road trip to the Super Bowl. Does that make you feel a little bad?
I thought
shitting
you
on
meant
it?
their actresses, actually, their husbands. I'm like, oh my God. And you guys want to make a movie? Go ahead. No, you're talking about the characters.
No, it's a true story.
Oh, enough with the true stories. Enough.
Less true. More fake.
Just stop, man. All of them are so fictionalized and stretched, and it turns out, that character didn't even exist. They just made it up because they needed a love interest and all that. Now, shut up. Shut up. Your stories aren't true.
This is like the football version of 9 to 5. They just swapped out Rita Moreno with Dolly Parton.
I want to do Jamie Foxx's quote from Horrible Bosses 2 about 9 to 5. I will not. But Cinephobe listeners will know. No, the based on a true story, you know what that is? It's a crutch. It's like, this story sucks. Hey, it actually happened. Well, if it actually happened, I guess that makes it interesting.
Speaking of these magazine-style shows, I've been fascinated. I've been seeing clips. I have to watch the whole thing of Anderson Cooper's interview with Rick Rubin. Have you seen any of this?
Saw a little
it looks
clip.
Fascinating.
Yeah, he says...
So, like, Rick Rubin is like, I don't know how to work a board, and I don't know anything about music.
Mhm.
I just tell people what I think about their music, and they seem to like it. And he's turned it into a massive career,
It's
making
very
hundreds of millions of
spiritual.
dollars.
Kanye will be late for Paris, and he'll just dump stuff in his office a long time ago, and Rick Rubin would turn it into something.
Dan,
help him turn it into something.
How weird is it to have watched? Was it not Beat Street? What was the Def Jam movie with Blair Underwood starring as Russell? Come on, now you're doing Greg Cody for me.
I have no idea what
Crush
you're talking
Groove?
about.
Crush
Yes,
Groove.
Crush Groove,
You know
yes.
Crush Groove. You've never seen Crush Groove.
He's
I've not.
37 years old.
I've not.
What?
He's 37 years old.
Another thing to add
How
to
old is he?
Oh, so what was the point of bringing up Crush Groove?
Because Rick Rubin is in Crush Groove. He plays himself. But like back then, he was like an NYU student and roommate with Russell Simmons. That's how they started Def Jam, right? And as things go on, like, it's very practical and a regular guy. And to see where he's ended up now as this weird guru, who lives out in, Malibu or wherever. And
He's the least likely hip hop. When you look at him, he's like this giant white beard and his hair is hanging everywhere, and he's sitting in a yoga
looks like
pose.
a hitchhiker.
Exactly.
Yes,
He's sitting
he
in
looks like a hitchhiker.
Sitting in a yoga pose on 60 Minutes. I'm like, this is the man behind hip hop? How is that possible?
The crazy thing is when he was with Kanye in Montana, where they were writing and doing the production for one of his albums, he was just sitting on the couch with his eyes closed, just listening to the music and being like, okay, let's change this, let's do that, and let's do this. It's like the amount of creativity that he has. He's actually on a podcast that I listened to called Huberman Lab. Andrew Huberman, who's a professor and doctor at Stanford, he talks about creativity for like 3 hours with this guy Huberman, and talks about how he just sees things and like the world around him like makes him think about things. He's just a really fascinating guy.
But he couldn't pinpoint it. Like, he
Right.
couldn't tell you, like, he's not saying like, oh, like,
There's no playbook.
Let's work on this on the board, or like, he's like, I have no skills in making music other than taste. I have taste.
I'm sorry. I want to go back to Crush Groove. How have you never seen Crush Groove? This is one of the great movies. And also, one of the great movie references is from Dogma, where Matt Damon's character reveals that he lost a bet to Ben Affleck's character that Crush Groove would be bigger than E.T., which I've loved that line for however long. Dogma was like 25 years ago now. I've loved that line for that long. Just the idea that someone would make a bet when Crush Groove came out, this is going to be bigger than E.T.
I think you're the only person, maybe Roy, other than Roy, who has seen Crush Groove in this room.
Everybody
I don't think
was in
Billy
it?
has even heard of it.
I've seen it. Guy Fieri's in
just-
80 for Brady.
Oh,
Billy,
Never mind. I'm back in.
This movie. I'm back in.
they're taking a road trip to Flavortown, guys.
Yeah,
it's gonna
hell yeah.
be a really good movie.
When you look at this cast, you're like,
It's a who's who.
it is
Sally
a who's
Field
who.
is the fourth woman, by the way. Shout out to Sally Field. I
Yeah.
didn't
Love
mention
Sally
earlier.
Field.
That's kind of why, and this is gonna sound morbid. That's kind of why, like, I see some of the people that are in this movie, and I'm like, do they just want to say that they were in a movie with Sally Field, Jane Fonda, Lily Tomlin, and Rita Moreno, and that's why they did this
Probably, yeah.
movie?
I would.
You have been awfully quiet since saying this movie's simply going to be terrible.
Oh, it's going to be terrible, but it's going to be like a guilty pleasure good. Like, I will probably love it knowing this is not a good movie.
Billy, have you watched the J-Lo movie yet that had the amazing trailer?
No,
that
it comes out at the end of the month, January 27th.
Is it about a wedding again?
It's the wedding one, yes.
But it turns into an action movie, Dan.
I was actually
There's
joking.
murders. Popcorn movie right there.
Yes,
was
Dan.
making a
She
joke.
is the bride in the movie.
Crush.
Play what you know.
Moving, body moving,
I mean,
body moving,
I mean,
crush.
I know the cultural
Moving,
reference.
body
You're not going to
moving.
convince
I've seen
me
The
to
Fat
have
Boys.
seen the movie. I have not seen the 37-year-old movie you're referencing, but please keep making those references. If you have anything else here, I can't help you. Billy could have, but you notice he sat it out. He didn't want to help you on Crush Group.
He did. He just sang.
I-
backup
Who's your?
I
vocals.
What's
just
your
sang
favorite
with
part
him.
of the movie, Billy?
Oh, the song. We just sang it.
Yeah.
Other than that,
Sally Field is the youngest person in 80 for Brady.
don't age
Younger than
shame. It's
Brady.
hard for older women to get roles in Hollywood.
Yeah. I mean, Lily Tomlin and Jane Fonda have figured out a form. This is like their third vehicle together because there was that Netflix show that I think everyone's mom watched. We had Grace and Frank. Everyone's mom watched that show.
My mom didn't, but respect.
Why is it some older ladies get all the work? Like
Some
What?
some older
Like-
people.
like no,
I think
no.
this happens. I think this happens with both men and women. Where it's like Morgan Freeman, if not for that whole thing, could still be like he'd be working until his dying breath.
Like, here's an example. Helen Mirren, she's not hurting for work. She's getting all the work. I submit to you. I've submitted this on Cinephobe, but now I submit on Le Batard Show. Helen Mirren, pre-being old, very average actress. Becomes old, becomes one of the great actresses of our time.
I mean, do you watch
Liam
documentary
Neeson.
now?
I have. I haven't seen
it's
every
great,
episode,
yeah.
but yeah. I
She's
have.
like the host of documentary. It's a satirical show, which everyone should
Netflix?
watch. It's on Netflix
Yeah.
and IFC, the most recent season. I watched one of the new season episodes this weekend called My Monkey Grifter, which is a spinoff of My Octopus Teacher. And it is a hilarious show where all of the recent Netflix and HBO documentaries and even historic, like they make fun of like Errol Morris in the first season. They will like do a spin-off of it and make fun of it. And so there's one about like the Wild Wild Country documentary and, you know, My Octopus Teacher and all these other documentaries, and they'll make fun of it. The Chef's Table. It's really funny. But Helen Mirren is
Lady
the host
Helen
who,
Mirren.
yes, thank you, who presents.
Enough with that. Also,
Whoa.
The show.
She's a dame?
she's
dames
dame.
and ladies
Hold
and,
on.
and
Can we-
sirs.
can-
Get me-
she's
get
She's
out of
decorated
here.
leave-
Owen
can we
Shaw's
leave Judi
mother.
Dench
Her
out of
name is
this?
Lady.
What?
Dame Judi Dench can be Dame.
No, she's Judi Dench.
No, she's Dame
No,
Judi
she's
Dench.
Judi Dench. This is America, Jack. We don't do these noble titles or whatever, or OBEs. Sorry, John Amici. You're just John Amici to me. You're not John Amici. Call me OBE. You can have that over there. We fought a war to free ourselves from those titles.
That was not the principal reason for any of those
It was
wars.
one of the reasons.
Let me ask you a question, Amin, as our resident basketball expert, because Stan Van Gundy did a back in my day yesterday on Twitter, and he did a back in my day. And as you mentioned, Crush Groove and are disappointed in me for not knowing a movie from 37 years ago, not having seen it. He has now made the 90s back in my day, because he is saying 90s NBA teams had a trainer and strength coach. They practiced more often and harder and played more back-to-backs. Teams now have huge medical staffs, huge performance staffs, and value rest over practice. Yet injuries and games missed are way up. Something's not working. Explain to me what's happening there.
Well, I think one of the things that coach is missing is first of all, more injuries, bigger, faster, stronger. We talk about it all the time. Kids have been working specific skill drills and athleticism drills for basketball at an earlier age, meaning there's more wear and tear on certain joints. We talked about this, it might have been a couple of years ago on the show, but I watched this documentary called In Search of Greatness, and they talked to Pele, and they talked to Wayne Gretzky, and they talked to Jerry Rice, and they asked them all these questions about, how they grew up. And for most, if not all, of the great athletes they talk to, they all played multiple sports just because that's how it was when you grew up. And now all these kids are specializing earlier and earlier. So the wear and tear on basketball-specific joints and muscles is much higher than it was when Coach is talking about, because those guys all had a more kind of regular, normalized, going back to our algorithm conversation, a more contextual upbringing rather than hyper-focused.
But wouldn't that be counterbalanced, though, by like not playing in low-top Converse sneakers and on floors that are not exactly made of the right, like there are certain like technological counterbalances to specialization that don't account for all these injuries. Yeah,
yes and no. I mean, I think, first of all, there are things that we think. So, for instance, high-top sneakers, right? Turns out that was false, right? And Steve Nash was the first one to say, wait a second, I played soccer. I know a lot of soccer players. We have more ankle injuries in basketball than they do in soccer. And so he wanted his Nike signature shoe to be a low cut. Kobe saw that, and Kobe came to the same conclusion. He said, wait a second, you're right. All the soccer players don't have nearly as many ankle injury as we do. And so he went low cut with them. And now the common NBA basketball player shoe is a lot lower cut than it was in the 90s when you had these huge Air Force whatevers and they were like damn near up to the calf and stuff. So technology sometimes is not always the right way, or it doesn't always have it right, I should say.
Well, isn't that what Stan Van Gundy's arguing now, too, with like, rest and all this stuff, where we think that we've perfected a formula to have these bodies peaking in the playoffs, and then inevitably in the playoffs, 4 or 5 series get ruined because a star player is injured.
So the other part of this is what Coach does not keep in mind, which everyone makes. Oh, well, Michael Jordan played 82 games. He played 40 minutes a night.
Also, I love that you're like out on Dame and Lady and Sir, but you're calling him Coach.
Yeah, because you know why? Because he earned it.
You don't think Dame Judi Dench earned Dame?
Yes, there's
John Amici earned that Order of the British Empire.
Somebody with a sword just said, "All rise, you are now John Amici, Order of the British." Oh, get out of here! Get out of here! I respect John for what he does in communities, what he does.
Did they? That's why they gave.
No, I don't need.
Okay.
But why is my approval more than Queen Elizabeth or whoever gave him that?
What?
Yeah,
well, the years of inbreeding. But continue with what your point about technology.
So, as I was saying, what everyone who says, oh, Michael Jordan played 82 games a year is missing is the idea that, yes, he did that because everybody else was doing the same thing. But once someone finds an easier way to do this that makes me fresher and better later in the year, then everyone is going to adjust and do the same thing. Imagine if we all lived in a building, a 20-story building, and there was no elevator. We never even knew about elevators. We were all walking up and down steps, right? And it's tough and it's hard. Oh, I got to go up to work's on the 12th floor. But, this is our life. I don't know any other way. And then one day they invented an elevator. And, Chris is like, oh, you know what? I'm going to take the elevator. But Jess is like, no, oh, that's so soft. I'm still taking stairs.
Need the hamstring workout, honestly. Good for the glutes.
At some point, we're going to see a difference in performance between the two of you because one is not wasting energy walking stairs. And you know what's going to happen eventually? No one takes the stairs. Everyone takes the elevator.
I like better the idea of all of us together happening upon the invention of the elevator and how our personalities would react, because Billy would be like, I'm not going up in that fiery
elevators.
death
Too
trap.
small.
Trap.
I'm not going to have a pulley pull me up and down. I will continue to climb stairs until I have arthritic hips and break my hip on one of these stairs.
If Billy was around for the invention of the elevator, it would have taken at least 10 years. It would have taken you 10 years to feel comfortable getting on one, right?
Longer than that.
I don't love
escalators.
elevators, still, to be honest.
By the way, this is how I feel about laser eye surgery.
Same. No
Right?
thanks.
Third that.
You guys are so afraid that you'll be the one where it gets messed up?
Well, I know one person who has had it messed up.
Really?
And I know several people that have had it and it was totally fine and
Doesn't
changed
Mike
their lives.
claim to have had it messed up? Like, isn't he always saying he has to listen to books because he can't read because of his surgery?
Nah, you can't read for another reason.
Didn't Roy get eye surgery, laser eye surgery?
No, I got lens replacement surgery.
Oh,
What's that?
Whoa.
Well, they kind
Hello.
of
Implant?
Yeah, implant. Yeah,
Rip off?
yeah. They rip off the original
What
lens
size you go
and
with?
That's
they
not the
place-
ripoff that he was saying.
No, it's not a rip. The University of Miami. No, they didn't rip me off.
There are three of us who are afraid here of the science that is among the safest eye correction. You're just the disaster is what the three of you are saying. I will not ever do it, no matter. I would prefer to go closer to blind than have science help me.
You don't have to go blind. I mean,
You just
I
wear
can
contacts.
put
or
on
glasses.
contacts or glasses. It's simple.
It's simple.
In my mind, the laser goes in and right out the back of my head.
Exactly.
It's not like the laser from Austin Powers.
What if they grabbed the wrong laser that day? You know what I mean?
Oh shit! I brought the wrong laser into work. I'm just gonna do Amin's eyes and then I'll go back and get the right one.
Ah, shit, he's
worse,
suing me.
when they're doing it and they go, like that little,
Uh-huh.
like you hear
Yeah.
that. Sometimes you hear your barber like, you make that noise and like, wait, what was that? Nothing. And then they're working for 20 minutes on that one spot to blend it out.
Yeah.
You don't want
Dentists
that
do that.
around your eye.
No.
You don't want the doctor to have a hiccup of regret around the eye.
Oops.
I don't think most people are afraid of that surgery, though. It
does seem terrifying because like they don't put you under anesthetic, right?
It's
No.
a split second though. It's just a boop and then it's over.
No
Yeah,
way.
but just 1 second is all it takes to mess it
First
up.
of all, yeah, boop, right out the back of my head.
That is such a bizarre fear. I've never heard of that. I've heard of like, oh, I don't want tunnel vision. Like, what if there's something on my eye and they don't see it? Like,
Movies
blah,
have
blah,
affected
blah.
movies have affected our perception of lasers. Like not all lasers
No
are.
Honey, I
way,
Shrunk the
Jose.
Kids. Yeah, exactly.
I had plenty of people telling me growing up you can't have a laser hit your eye or go blind.
Yeah.
You guys remember that?
I had to get a
Laser
laser,
pointers, yeah.
like a laser thing removed from my face when I was little. Like I had a broken blood vessel and they had to laser it. It was so crazy. And then I had a huge bruise on my nose for like a month.
Then why are you
Oh.
scared? Then
It's a different kind of laser.
Oh.
There are different lasers.
Oh, okay.
Why
It
did they
didn't
bring
go
that
through my
one?
head though. It didn't come out of the other side of my brain. I mean, it stopped at my
You
nose.
got lucky.
I don't think
Subdermal level.
that Amin's fear here that was influenced by the movies is because of what the movies have done with lasers. I think it's what the movies have done with exploding heads, because do you have your blood splattering on a wall
No.
behind you?
It's a clean, like you could look right through and little
Lasers
smoke
are
coming
precise,
out.
Dan. Yeah.
It actually cauterizes as it burns through my skull.
Like Predator.
You watch too many movies. Too many bad movies.
See you, Gary.